This is the Kingpin, and you're listening to the Air Raid Hour, a Buffalo Fanatics video experience.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis, joined as always by my co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. We are presented by the name of the YouTube channel that you guys have all logged into here, Buffalo Fanatics. So now that you're all rolling in, like, comment, subscribe, and do us a favor, share, because football season is back. And before we get into everyone in the comment section and say hello and all that good stuff, I just have one question for you, Dave. One question. Are you ready for Josh Allen to We are back. It is Take Me Higher season. It is football season. We got the videos back and we are ready to go. Truth of Hearts comes in and says, Tilt Bayless and Judge Cowherd. I don't know.
Ooh, is that an insult?
To you,
man.
I'll take the Colin Cowherd comparison. I will take it.
I feel like I'm like the anti-Skip Bayless. I feel like I'm the most like level-headed person. I'm like maybe, I don't know. I just feel like I'm pretty level-headed when it comes to my opinions. So, but you know what? Hey, Skip Bayless is famous, so I hate the Cowboys though. So I mean,
and I will tell you what too. So we are so close to football season. The Hall of Fame game is exactly 1 week away. The Cowboys and you got a fan here in the comment section, Injustice. We are 1 week away. We've been doing these shows, and since the draft and since like the post draft and all those different things, I mean, we have been here. We have been marching through these shows and doing this and doing that. The last 2 weeks, it has really livened up with, you know, the 53-man roster projections and the previewing training camp. I now have a list of like 30 players like long that we're going to talk about today. Like actual things we're seeing on a football field that we actually have a chance to talk about today. So it's going to be so much fun. And as always, we are joined by the third host of this show, Kendall in the background. Kendall is in the background, but we also got the people a little late today. Kendall, by the way, you guys can't see Kendall, but he thought he could slide in late. I
mean, it was pretty smooth. I gotta say, like he slid in and put a comment in the comment section.
Yeah,
before he was checked into the studio. That's pretty smooth. That's pretty smooth.
So we got D Handsome in the house, Jason Humbert, Steven Terzian, Chris S. Who else we got? Dwayne Edwards, Matthew Ronsky, Eric B. Chris, I think I already said Chris S. We got Justin in the house, AK Cash, Truth to Hearts. I am tired. I'm pretty tired too. I just was mentioning to Dave, I'm waking up from a nap here. MOS. So we got a whole bunch of you in the house, ready to go. John Airing in the house as well. So, I mean, let's get right to it. And I'm just gonna put the new background up right away. Let's just get right into the main and the only topic for today. Training camp early reactions. We already got Lone Wolf coming in saying McKenzie looks good, I hear.
Oh, we're going to talk about
Matt Perino had nothing but good things to say about that. We got Richard Rush coming in and says, "You got to go fix the mower." It's all right, Richard. You can always
good for you, Richard, man. You're the everyman that we all strive to be. Like, if you told me that like I had to go fix my lawnmower right now, I wouldn't know the first thing to do to fix it. So good for you, man. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I can change a light fixture. I can do that. I can't do a lot of stuff.
A nice reminder that if you ever miss the show live and you're not like a listen late on YouTube type of person, you want to listen from work, you want to listen on your car ride to work, you want to listen to us in the shower, maybe. I listen to us in the shower sometimes. You just head on over to the Buffalo Fanatics Podcast Network. And you can listen to us next morning. So, and all the Buffalo Fanatics video casts for that as well. So over on the Pod Network. But one of the things that I want to say is like this offseason, right? It's been about like, well, the Bills have made some little adjustments here, some little adjustments there. They went to the AFC Championship game this year. You know, a lot of teams that, you know, in the AFC East, the Colts, the Browns, there's all these other teams that are loading up. The Chiefs have fixed their offensive line. There's all these things and you know, the national media, and I think even, you know, us and other people, I don't want to speak for everyone, but it's just like, all right, you know, can we do it again? or is it Super Bowl or bust? Like, what should my expectations be? After the first 2 days of training camp, it's Super Bowl or bust, right? I mean, this looks like a team, same team as last year with a couple of additions, especially along the D line, some rookies that we're going to talk about in a little bit, with a little bit of additions. It's just another year of polish, another year of progression. They didn't walk into training camp getting to know each other. They knew each other. They're ready to roll. They know exactly what their job is, and they're ready to go accomplish it. So, I mean, to me, it's Super Bowl or bust. What are your thoughts after the first 2 days of training camp?
I think maybe we didn't put enough weight on the fact that these guys were able to, be around each other more this offseason, get that camaraderie 1 year more into the process, right? And to me, you think about when you come into training camp, you want to start off on a good note, and obviously we're going to get into all that, but I don't know, maybe we didn't put enough emphasis on them just being largely the same group again and growing together, and not to mention just growing together as a group, but being on the same page and being pissed off about the way they went out last year. And I said this in one of my group chats to a couple of my other friends that are Bills fans. I think this team last year, I think they thought they were good, and they went out and they proved that they were. This year going into camp, they know they're good, and they're motivated to prove that what they did last year, there's more to come. So it's a slight difference. It's not a huge difference, but like thinking you're good versus knowing you're good is it's a big difference. And when I say that, I don't think that means they're going to be cocky or like overconfident in like going into games unprepared or thinking they'll just roll over teams. I'm just thinking they're sitting there saying, we know we're good. We need to do what we are supposed to do to win these games during the regular season so we can ultimately accomplish our primary goal, which is to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, that's some good shit right there. I literally marked it down. 702. I'm gonna promo the hell out of that comment right there. But I mean, you're spot on. Like they know they're a good football team, and it seems like they're on one mission right now. And if you know the Buffalo Bills are a good football team, smash that like for us. Smash that like for us here at the Air Raid Hour. Jeff Hayes coming in saying Super Bowl or bust. I love it. Let's go. Let's go is correct. It is time to get things rolling, and it always starts with your franchise quarterback. Franchise quarterback, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Allen. And no matter who you talk to or no matter who you read, because we're gonna talk later on about some players like Dane Jackson. And you'll read Matt Perino, who says, "Oh, I thought Dane Jackson struggled today." And you'll read Thad Brown, who says, "Oh, I thought Dane Jackson had some really good moments today." So you'll read conflicting reports on some certain players, depending on the day, depending on the perspective, et cetera, et cetera. There's not a single person covering the Buffalo Bills the last 2 days who have any doubt in their minds. And I mean, you mentioned this, that these were Matthew Fairburn said this is the best first 2 days Josh Allen's ever had of training camp, that these are probably 2 of the better days Josh Allen's ever had at training camp. And that, I mean, the dude just looks like a polished franchise quarterback walking into training camp, ready to do what franchise quarterbacks do. There's nothing to prove, I think, for Josh Allen anymore, other than obviously winning a Super Bowl. Like, I think for him, it's bona fide. Like, I am the guy. This is my team. I am a good quarterback. Like, let's get this shit going. What are your thoughts on Josh Allen's first 2 days of camp?
Yeah, when Fairburn said could have been his best 2 days of camp, period, but best 2 opening days of camp throughout his career, 4 years, obviously. That makes me feel really good. Now, people are going to say, it's just the first 2 days. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. He had a couple really nice days, but let's be realistic here. If he came out of the gates and the reports were like, oh, Josh was a little slow out of the gates, he was a little rusty, like people will be taking the other extreme as well. So if you have to choose, you obviously want him to come out of the gates hot the first couple days of training camp and practice. We always have said in the past, and maybe this is a myth that could be debunked or what, but like typically what we've always said and what a lot of people have said is that the defense starts out ahead of the offense when camp opens. And it looks like that's not been the case because of Josh Allen. 15 of 20, I think, was what they said he was today, or might have been over the the first 2 days. I don't remember who said that, but and a couple of those misses were obviously the Boogie pick, and then a couple drops too. So it's not like, I mean, this guy is coming out on fire, and this is what we expect, right? We expect him to have taken that bad taste in his mouth from the Houston loss 2 years ago, fuel that coming into the season in 2020. Now take that feeling exponentially more with the loss in the AFC Championship game. The fuel now coming into this season for him is, it's apparent that he is ready to roll right now. And that, like you said, this is his team, and he's going to take them as far as he can take them this year. It's going to be on Josh Allen.
Yeah. So like it was Matt Perino made this comment too. He said, listen, during OTAs, the defense, had the leg up. And typically in most training camps, the defense, has the leg up on the first couple of days as well. That's not the case with this Buffalo Bills team. Perino even said, like, it was nice to see the offense match the intensity of the defense, because the defense is coming in with a chip on their shoulder too, after a bad 2020 season.
Yep.
So they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to want something to prove. And there's a lot of experienced players back there. And Josh Allen, him and Emmanuel Sanders, from everything I've read, those communication issues they were dealing with in OTAs, those are gone. Him and Cole Beasley are on the same page. Obviously, I haven't heard Stephon Diggs' name much, but guess what? We don't need to. We know what Stephon Diggs is capable of. So it's really nice to see them just come out and start clicking right away, because the chances are it's probably only going to get better. Don comes in with the comment that says, well, Boogie ran a touchdown on him. That is true. Mistakes are going to happen, especially in training camp, because you're trying to work the kinks out. From what I heard on the Boogie Basham play, and we're going to talk about Boogie Basham in a little bit, it was just a freaking awesome play. Like, the dude just made a play. Like, Josh Allen be damned, it could have been anyone back there. He was going to make that play. Like, he just wowed everyone with the play he made. The other interception of note was Siran Neal picked him off. And from what I heard, immediately after that interception, Josh Allen was really ticking himself. He ran over to Brian Dable and immediately was like, let's get to the bottom of this. Why did I just throw that interception? So that is what training camp is for. We want to have a good defense in 2020 as well. So you don't want to see the offense scorching the defense every single play. That's why I can't wait for the preseason, because like, that's part of the struggle of training camp. It's like, oh man, Josh Allen threw a pick. Like, you want to be mad about that because you want Josh Allen to be good. But at the same time, you're like, also, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe the defense is bouncing back too. Exactly. So there's a lot of mixed emotions in every single play. So that should be, I wouldn't read too much into it. It was just a great play by Boogie Basham. Other quarterbacks of notes. Now that we got through Josh Allen here. Oh, one last note before. I read somewhere, I believe it might have been, I'm going to be misquoting people all over the place. So just know it's either going to be, Thad Brown, it's going to be Matt Perino, Sal Capaccio. I know Jenna Cottrell was there. You mentioned Fairburn, Muscaglia. There are a whole bunch of people there. I've been reading the various different reports, listening to the various different interviews and stuff. So if I ever misquote anyone at any point in time, credit to all of those guys who are there at camp doing a great job getting us some information. As I mentioned, the Buffalo Bills turned down my request to fly a drone over the practice field. I have no idea why.
Bobby apparently has a drone. So
yeah, I was like, listen, I got a guy named Bobby. He's got a drone. Can you give me some press credentials? I'll put the little lanyard around the drone. He'll fly over the field. There won't be any problems. They said no. So, it's whatever. I'm over it. We've already been sued by them once, so it's not a big deal. All right. Mitch Trubisky was the other, or one last note on Josh Allen was Tommy Sweeney. Apparently, like, he dropped a pass. It wasn't like a terrible pass. It was like low, probably should have been caught. The kind of catches that NFL players make, but he just didn't handle it right. And he was pretty upset after dropping it. And Josh Allen, and it was from Mitch Trubisky. It wasn't even from Josh Allen. Josh Allen immediately like ran over to Tommy Sweeney and started pumping him up and getting him back into the swing of things. So you got to love that from your franchise quarterback too. It's crazy. There was an article that came out, or not an article that came out today, but a former Sabres player, not to bring too much hockey into this, a former Sabres player came out today and was like, talking about how like, yeah, Jack Eichel just like wasn't a great leader. Like, he didn't treat everyone in the locker room with the same amount of respect. He definitely thought about status when talking to you, like, he treated the higher draft picks and the higher paid players differently than like some of the guys at the bottom half of the roster. Whether that's true or not, you know that is not the case with Josh Allen. Like literally, that is not the case with Josh Allen. This guy is wired to every single person on this team is family to this guy, and he's there 100% in, all in. So that was just like a little note about Josh Allen that I like really appreciated when I read it, was him going up and pumping up Tommy Sweeney after that incident in practice. Quarterbacks, we're not done. We actually have 2 more quarterbacks to talk about. Craziness. Mitch Trubisky apparently yesterday looked really good. Today looked so-so. But what are your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills? Because I've said this before. Knock on wood. And I got yelled at in the comment section of our show. Someone watching on replay, like, don't you dare bring that juju on us. But knock on wood, if anything were bad to happen to Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills are still the favorite in the AFC East with Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback. I said it before and I'll say it again. That is a really nice thing to have for your football team. But what are your thoughts on Mitch Trubisky through 2 days?
Yeah, up and down, that's fine, right? For him. That's fine for a guy like that. Like, that's been kind of the MO of his career, right? He's had some really nice moments in his career, and he's had some really kind of tough moments. And I think the fact of the matter is that he isn't the starter. If he has some really nice moments in camp, that's great. But he's not. I don't think the expectation for him should be the same as it is for Allen. Like, when we look at Allen in camp, like, we don't, regardless of what we think our defense is going to be, we expect him to light it up every time he's out there. Mitch, I think we can be a little bit more lenient as far as like expectations for him and kind of what he's doing in camp. He's still learning too, remember, right? This is his first year here. Second day of training camp, like Don said, give him time. And he's already kind of overall had a great, positive, overall it's been positive for him, right? So give it time for Mitch. He's been in the league for what, 4 or 5 years now. So he'll be fine. He'll be great as a backup. And the fact is that he's had some nice moments already when it is only the second day, as Don mentions, is a positive sign for the Bills. So I wouldn't worry too much about him being up and down so far.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just nice too. Like, they noted during the first practice that Mitch Trubisky had some nice runs, and you can really tell, like, it's easy to tell that Mitch Trubisky is 100 times the athlete that Matt Barkley was. So again, knock on wood, if anything were to happen to Josh Allen, that playbook that the Buffalo Bills run doesn't go out the window. You can still run a lot of the same plays with Mitch Trubisky that you ran with Josh Allen. Does Mitch Trubisky have the arm of Josh Allen? No. Does Mitch Trubisky probably have like the field awareness of a Josh Allen? Probably not. But Chris S says that Mitch as a backup is better than a lot of starters. He's taken some Chicago Bears teams to the playoffs or the brink of the playoffs before, and I think the Buffalo Bills probably have a better roster than a lot of the teams that those Bears have had, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I know they had some good defenses there, but Jake Fromm. I wasn't even planning on talking about Jake Fromm today because I hadn't really heard him mentioned. Now, Jake Fromm is a hot button topic on this show because he is one of our 2 differences in our 53-man rosters. So this is an important player for the 2 of us in terms of bragging rights. I have Jake Fromm making the team. You have Jake Fromm missing the team. I've noted before, I think that Jake Fromm makes the team if he doesn't shat all over himself this training camp, because he's the long-term backup for this football team. And I've laid out some various reasons why I don't think you get him on the practice squad, why I don't think if you cut him, he'll want to come back here. That being said, through 2 days of practice, according to Thad Brown, and again, he's the only person I've seen commenting on Jake Fromm's performance so far, he's looked like hot doo-doo. So he is currently trending in the direction that I stated. Okay, wipe your hands of him, move on. Obviously, there's still a lot of time to go, but what are your thoughts on hearing that third team Jake Fromm isn't exactly what's the phrase? Cutting the mustard? Is that a phrase? Is that a thing?
Sounds okay to me. Look,
right.
I mean, that was my.
It's not. I just made it up.
That was my
up to mustard. I don't know.
Up to snuff. That's a phrase.
There we go.
That's a phrase. That was my pre-camp prediction. So now that camp started, like, that prediction doesn't even matter anymore. But yeah, I mean, that was me thinking economically, I guess, about the roster as far as like making the most out of other positions or maximizing other positions. But look, I don't have the highest hopes for Jake Fromm. Like, I know he played in the SEC and I know he had, was at the helm of some good Georgia teams, but I athletically, he's limited. Arm talent wise, he's limited. Yes, he may have a good head on his shoulders. He may have good poise, but to me, if he has a bad camp and he doesn't play well in the preseason, like what are we talking about here? Like
Mhm.
you can find you can find a backup quarterback if you need to outside of Jake Fromm. Like like you don't have to assume that Jake Fromm is going to be the backup if he's not performing well. Like we went out and we were able to find a Matt Barkley 2 years ago. Like we'll be able to do something like that if it doesn't work out with him. So again, he'll have a chance to prove himself in camp practice. He'll have a chance to prove himself in the preseason. We'll see what happens. But look, I'm not too bent out of shape regardless of what happens with him, honestly.
All right, let's move on now to the running back room. Not too much to talk about yet. Obviously, the pads aren't on and all those different things. I think this is probably I don't know. I think at least maybe from the people who are there in the building, this is less of a story than it was like when Devin Singletary was a rookie or when Zach Moss was a rookie. But the two things that I've managed to parse together, looking over the various different reports and videos and all those different things. Number one, I've seen that Zach Moss, obviously Sean McDermott came out and said he's not going to be full go when the pads are on. They're going to ease him back in slowly. Him and Cody Ford. And the other one I saw was Thad Brown hyping up Matt Breida, saying that Matt Breida was looking quick out of his cuts. He was taking the one trait that is advantageous to him, his speed, and he is using it to his advantage. So what's your thoughts on that? That one little blurb about how Matt Breida is looking quick in and out of cuts.
I mean, if you're a speed guy, you're gonna look good when the pads aren't on, right? I mean, like that's just how it goes. But like, I'm not surprised. Matt Breida, we know his story. He's the guy that constantly, you know, puts himself back into games when he's dinged up. Like he's got a really good head on his shoulders. He's got the right attitude. We've seen it with him when he was with the Niners. Like he's a guy that's easy to root for. Obviously, last year he was in the Dolphins. We weren't rooting for him, but like as a person, he's an easy guy to root for, and you can see why. I mean, he brings that speed element, like you said. So I'm not surprised, no, at that early on. Like time will tell, right? When things start getting, when we start hitting and things get into like full padded practices, then that's where he's really going to have to show that it's not just a speed thing, right? Or if it is, that he can still get it done when the pads are on. So, yeah, anything about Williams? Not. I didn't see anything.
If you've seen anything, yeah.
Other than the picture, other than the photo that he took in the uniform, which looked really nice.
Great thing switching up to number 28, in my opinion. That was a good move by him. All right. This is where it's about to get good. Wide receiver. Because this is a guy I think, and who knows, maybe he was talked about elsewhere more than he was talked about here. I think this guy has probably been not talked about enough on this show, and that's Emmanuel Sanders. So we signed Emmanuel Sanders. We set our piece on Emmanuel Sanders. Then us, we get caught up in the draft came, we got all caught up in draft talk, then OTAs happened and he was a little off with Josh Allen during OTAs. We mentioned it. We got a little into like who would get more, catches or touchdowns, Gabriel Davis or Emmanuel Sanders, but I don't think we really got into Emmanuel Sanders maybe as much as we should have this offseason, but the man has made an impression the first couple of days. He came out, said that Josh Allen is making throws that he hasn't seen any quarterback he's ever played for make. That includes the likes of Ben Roethlisberger and Peyton Manning. Also played with Drew Brees. He's talking about how he loves to mentor the younger guys. And people have mentioned that his connection with Josh Allen has been really good so far in training camp. Cole Beasley called him one of the better slot players he's ever seen. He's working a little bit on the inside. He's working obviously on the outside as well. Just a crazy versatile type of player. Stephon Diggs loves having him, and Stephon Diggs mentioned how tight they're becoming and how much fun it is having him there. So it seems like the chemistry is clicking with the top four, because I'm going to bring Cole Beasley into this as well. Cole Beasley has been making, I see his name all over the place, catching this pass or this pass or this pass from Josh Allen, including that one that Emmanuel Sanders was one of the best throws he's ever seen. Sal Capaccio described the throw by Josh Allen as picture the throw in the San Francisco game over Fred Warner. deeper down the field over 2 defenders. And
Yes.
the Bills kind of posted a video of it on their social media. I don't know if the angles the Bills posted, because obviously the Bills are trying to hide certain things. Does the throw justice? A couple of the guys, it might have been Eric Turner or Aaron Quinn, someone over there at Cover One posted the throw of Josh Allen at the Idaho Potato Bowl from his senior year. Or his junior year, it kind of looked like that throw that he had over there on the blue turf in the Idaho Potato Bowl. So just some crazy stories, and we're going to get into the depth, guys. Isaiah McKenzie and Marquez Stevenson in a second. But what are your thoughts so far on the core four and some of the things? Gabriel Davis has been quiet. Stephon Diggs has been quiet. What are your thoughts on Sanders and Beasley so far?
Well, I'm not worried about Diggs. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the least of my worries, honestly. Like I think they probably want to report on the other guys, because if we hear that Diggs was great, like no one's going to be surprised at that. So it's just like, fine. I think you're right about Sanders. We probably didn't talk about it enough, but I also think there was maybe some subconscious thoughts from us that like, this guy is a pro. Like he's been with a bunch of good quarterbacks. He's been on a bunch of teams. He's been in deep playoff runs. Like, also almost like we don't need to worry about him either. Like he's going to come in and he's going to be fine. And although they had those, communication issues in OTAs, it's like, well, this guy, he's played with a number of quarterbacks and he's been around the league for so long. So we don't need to worry about him. I think what I like about Sanders is that he seems to be a little bit more of, I don't know. He seems to have a little bit more of I don't want to say aggressive attitude, but he has like a little bit more of a swagger, I guess I would say, than John Brown did. And this is nothing against John Brown, because John Brown was obviously a consummate professional, and it was talked about as much, when Gabriel Davis had mentioned John Brown last year. But Sanders brings a swagger to the unit that the other guys have. Diggs has a swagger. We know Beasley has a swagger. Gabriel Davis has a swagger. Competitive fire, like Kendall says, he has that. And I'm not saying that John Brown didn't, but he meshes well now with this group. He is a guy cut from the same cloth, if you will, as these other 3 guys in the core 4. So I really am loving that. And like you said, Beasley catching everything in sight, fastballs coming into him quick. He's making the catches. Everything's been like glowing about him on the field. And he was talking about how he was like knowing what the defenses were, like what coverages they were in before they even lined up, like these types of things. So Carl says Sanders is a better pedigree than Brown. I think you're right. I think he's a better frame. I think he has a better pedigree. Brown was a nice player for us, and I wish him nothing but the best, but I do think Sanders is an upgrade. Will we miss Brown's ability to go deep? Can Sanders do that? He can, maybe not quite as well as Brown, but Gabriel Davis, wasn't necessarily the speedster, and he proved he could go deep. And we're about to get to one of the rookies here in a second who early has proven that he can go deep. So will we miss it? Maybe, but I do think that if you watch like the most successful throws from Josh last year were like we said, those intermediate 15 to 20 yard chunky plays that still move the ball significantly down the field. And so I'm not Lone Wolf. I'm not really sure. I'm going to say we might miss it here and there, but I don't think you're going to miss John Brown too much, honestly.
And Stephon Diggs mentioned too that he thought his and Josh Allen's connection on the deep ball last year wasn't what it could have been. And they've been working on that. And when you have 2 consummate professionals and 2 route running tacticians like Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley work in the middle of the field, it's going to be really hard to double up on a guy like Stephon Diggs. And you might see Stephon Diggs be a guy who catches some more deep balls in the 2020 season as well to make up for that. So it'll be super interesting. Obviously, Gabriel Davis has that ability as well. To me, it's just, I don't know. It's just so weird. We have a franchise quarterback and like 4 they're just like consummate professionals at wide receiver who are just going out there every day and just doing their business. And they're going to get out there in the regular season and they're just going to do their business. Like I don't want to get too high on my horse. I don't want to get too hyperbolic, but I'm just getting so excited thinking about how fucking dangerous this offense can be this season and how fun and exciting. Like we got off to like a slowish start last year. Like, I'm not saying it was the worst in the world, but they were knocking some rust off. Then they had those big games against like LA and Seattle. But then those games in the middle of the season, it was like we were barely slipping by some teams and this and that. And then the bye week happened and the Chargers happened. And then we were just absolutely destroying people.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the way we finished off the season, picking up week 1 with that and rolling it throughout the entire season instead of just a quarter of your season. That's what that's what I feel like is a possibility for the Buffalo Bills this year. And Bruce Nolan says all the time, like, expectations, minus reality equals disappointment. I don't want to get my expectations too high because I don't want to be disappointed, but like I'm just feeling like just so excited for this offense. And we've had, we've been doing our AFC East preview shows and previewing some other teams, and we've been getting fans from other teams in here saying like, oh, your team, it was 1 year, blah blah, this team got better, this team got better, you're overrating your team because you got the Homer goggles on. I don't think I got the Homer goggles on. I think this team is legit, and I think this is freaking awesome, and I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. But that brings us now to something I didn't think we'd have so much to talk about today, but oh boy, the bottom half of the wide receiver depth chart. Let's go through it one at a time. And they haven't really mentioned kick and punt returns, so we're not going to talk about kick and punt returns, the Stevenson versus McKenzie battle there. I haven't really seen anything about that, but Matt Perino came out today and said Isaiah McKenzie's looking as good as he ever has. The route running is immaculate. He's obviously a good playmaker. He's learned a lot from Cole Beasley in his time here in Buffalo. Called him one of the better depth players in the league. It still baffles me that the guy got a 1 year, like $1 million deal when he scored 8 touchdowns last year. I don't understand it. We and you had this conversation between him and oh gosh, I already forgot the guy's name who went off to Jacksonville, Jamal Agnew. It blows my mind that Agnew got that money and McKenzie couldn't even get like 1/20th of it. But yeah, right here, Carl Hanratty coming in saying like McKenzie is not going to go quietly. So you got McKenzie blowing it up, looking awesome. Apparently on the 1v1 drills, he just deep hands Siran Neal, and he's been looking awesome. You got Marquez Stevenson, who some people have said made some plays today, especially on a deep ball.
Yep.
You have Jake Kumerow's name has been mentioned a couple of times with some practice highlights. And on top of that, Aaron Rodgers decided that he was just going to stop caring about what anyone thought of him and his Green Bay Packers press conference, and mentioned that last season Jake Kumerow was the second best wide receiver in training camp, and they cut him without talking to him. And now you see his name flash a couple of times here for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, the one time they cut him during the season last year, he immediately got snatched up by the Saints. You'd probably expect that to happen again if he got cut. So there's just a lot of buzz around Jake Kumerow. And from what Thad Brown, and this is the only thing I've heard since OTAs on Isaiah Hodgins, Thad Brown said he's had a couple of contested catch chances and he just hasn't come down with the ball. And you'd like to see a guy with that frame come down with those balls. So arrow up through 2 days with very limited, you're just reading other people's opinions. Through 2 days, arrow up on McKenzie, arrow up on Stevenson, arrow up on Kumerow. Maybe I would say arrow sideways, like not down, but sideways on a guy like Isaiah Hodgins. It could be interesting. Could we see a situation where it's McKenzie and Kumerow? Could we see a situation where it's McKenzie and Stevenson? All these different pairings and combinations at the back half of the depth chart that maybe we weren't imagining a couple of months ago.
Could you imagine a seventh receiver and it being McKenzie, Stevenson, and Kumerow?
Yeah, that's right.
Look, I mean, we wanted Stevenson to impress. I think we all do, right? He was the draft pick. We want to find maybe some answers there at the kick return, punt return thing, which obviously we're not going to get into there. But I mean, Fairburn even said it as well. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said like McKenzie has been able to find a way onto this team every year. And this year looks like it's been his best start to camp that he's had. So he knows that the heat is on him from that standpoint because the Bills drafted a Marquez Stevenson. Like, hey, like this is a guy that we think could do kick and punt returns. This is a guy that maybe we think can do some of the same things you offered us. And we didn't sign you right away when it came to free agency. We signed you later on after free agency had already been open for several days. So I think McKenzie's got a chip on his shoulder, and it's going to be kind of like the, like the Levi Wallace treatment, if you will. Like he's going to feel like he's going to have to fend these guys off time after time. And by the sound of it, he's doing a great job of that to start camp. The differentiating factor could end up being that kick return, punt return ability between these two. I would say this, Jeff, if something happens to Cole, you can plug McKenzie right in. I don't know that McKenzie is a great slot receiver, though. Like, I think he's more of a, I guess that's where you would put him, but he's not really like, I don't know that he has like a true role, like as far as like.
I would have said that's true his rookie year and maybe even his second year, but from all reports is he has taken to Cole Beasley and he has learned a lot from Cole Beasley in terms of his route running and all those different things. So I think that could be a true statement. Now, the thing that gets me is Isaiah McKenzie signed a 1-year contract at like almost a minimum. So this is really exciting. Cole Beasley's got 2 years left on that contract. But Isaiah McKenzie is a guy who could possibly be the successor in the slot to a Cole Beasley. The only problem is like Cole Beasley's contract runs even longer than Isaiah McKenzie's right now. And if Isaiah McKenzie comes out this year and plays really well, I don't know if the Buffalo Bills are going to be able to afford to keep him around. So it'll be interesting, but it's a nice problem to have right now.
I want Marquez Stevenson to take a liking to Cole Beasley. That's what I want for the future.
And the thing with Stevenson too is Stevenson at 6'2", 190, I hope he takes a liking to guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs too, because you could see a guy like Stevenson, and I'm not trying to project this for Stevenson or anything of that nature, because I've barely seen the man play football at the pro level, is he's got at least the frame. Isaiah McKenzie doesn't have the frame. Marquez Stevenson has the frame to maybe develop a John Brown type of career. Like start off early as a guy who can stretch, because he can play the boundary if he can get off press coverage. He's
basically
190.
No, he's 5'10". He's not 6'2".
Or I'm sorry, did I say 6'2"? I meant 5'10". But 190. I didn't mean to say 6'2". I don't know what's wrong with me. He's 190 pounds. He's not as small as a guy like McKenzie.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, like, body type wise, like you said, he could be the John Brown body type, maybe with even a little bit more on his frame. And he could be an inside outside guy too. I think you're right. Nice to hear about him catching that deep ball, because especially early in camp, like those are probably far and few in between. We weren't going to hear otherwise unless he, made a play or two. We probably weren't going to hear much about Stevenson, right, these first couple of days. But the fact that he did stand out, at least make that play, and he was being talked about by a couple people, that's a good sign. And like Don said, and like others have said, it's the second day of camp. The fact that he's kind of already made a good impression this early as a rookie, to me, I like that trend.
And John Herring comes in and says, so is he Lee Evans type? I'm not willing to put him like in that arena yet. Lee Evans, I believe, was a much more stouter guy despite his lack of height to go along with that speed, but he's got the frame to develop into more than just a slot guy. Is essentially what I'm saying. He's got to take in what Stephon Diggs and what Emmanuel Sanders and what Cole Beasley are teaching him, and he's got to develop into that. I'm not saying right away. Lee Evans was a first-round pick for a reason. John Brown was a fourth-round pick who popped as a rookie for a reason. They're a lot further along than a guy like Marquez Stevenson, but I think his frame gives you a little bit more. But it's going to be so much fun in the preseason watching some of these wide receivers have at it. And they're actually going to have some competent quarterbacks between Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky throwing them the football too. So Money Mitch, we mentioned before how maybe Mitch Trubisky doesn't play a lot this preseason, and it's Fromm season and it's Webb season. Maybe Mitch Trubisky plays a lot this preseason because they really need to see what these receivers have at the bottom half of the step chart. So that's another thing too.
It's a great point, because if you throw Fromm out there and like balls are flying everywhere, are you really going to know how good those receivers are if they're not able to get their hands on him? It's a good point. I mean, and maybe for Mitch too, for his own confidence, get him some decent reps in the preseason as well. So that could work both ways in the positive for the Bills.
All right, tight end room. A couple of news and notes here. Reggie Gilliam moved back to fullback, which is interesting when we talk about like roster management decisions. Like, are the Bills going to keep 3 tight ends and Reggie Gilliam as a fullback? Are the Bills going to keep 2 tight ends and Reggie Gilliam as a fullback tight end? So that's something we could have a conversation about. What are your thoughts on Reggie Gilliam's move to fullback?
I don't get it. Like, I mean, I get it from what he can do, but I don't get it if you're like the Bills. Like, why do that? Like, unless you're signaling that maybe you're inclined to keep like a fullback type player on the roster. Like, in a way, I almost feel like it enhances his chances to make the team. And I know it's kind of silly to say that, but like, even though it's just procedurally they're changing his position, it's almost like, well, why do that if you didn't feel like there was like a specific role for that type of player on this team, right? And if he's that type of player and he's the only one that you're going to say is that type of player, does that mean there's a role for him on this team and he has a chance to make this team?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I read into it.
It's just, I'm still considering him like a tight end, like, because I don't think you see a situation where they keep 3 tight ends and 3 tight ends and Reggie Gilliam. I think it would be 2 tight ends and Reggie Gilliam if they did it. So I'm still considering him fullback / tight end. Before we get to John DeMarshi's super chat, a good comment here from Truth to Hearts. I don't want to see the bubble receivers receiving passes from Mitch or Webb. Not ideal for any receiver. Here's a thought too. Preseason, you don't want to risk players to injuries. Maybe Josh Allen plays 2 series or 3 series, and Beasley, Sanders, Diggs only play 1 of those 3 series, and the other 2, guys like Hodgins and guys like McKenzie and guys like Stevenson and guys like Kumaro are getting reps with Josh Allen. So maybe you see them getting reps with Josh Allen and some of the veteran receivers getting a little bit of rest. So that could be a situation that we see as well if the Buffalo Bills really want to gauge how some of these bottom half of the roster receivers are playing. But John, coming to the super chat, I always appreciate you, John. Anyone else wants to jump the line? They want their comment, their take, their question, whatever it is to be heard. You can jump the line by throwing in a super chat, just like John here. And he says, Diggs caught 77% of targets. Crazy. Beasley and Sanders are cheat codes with huge quick separation. There's the big wide receiver in Gabriel Davis going into year 2. If Breda is a screen threat, Buffalo scores 540 plus. Groot 13 sags, defensive rookie of the year.
Love it. I love
the optimism, because we haven't even gotten to the defense yet. And when we do, I have some words. For what I'm seeing from Boogie Basham and Gregory Rousseau early. But just to go what he's saying, back to what I was saying earlier, these receivers, man, like Diggs and Brown and Beasley, and like you could even throw Dawson Knox, and we're going to start talking about Dawson Knox in a second. Like, you have these 3 guys in Beasley, Sanders, and Diggs that are just absolute cheat codes with a quarterback like Josh Allen who can get out of the pocket and get these guys the ball whenever and wherever they want it. On top of that, you throw in the big slot of Gabriel Davis, who's continuing to evolve as a receiver. You have that gadget guy in Isaiah McKenzie. You have Dawson Knox, who, if he catches the ball, can do some damage with it once he catches it. And you even add in a speed element at running back and a guy like Matt Breda. Like, holy jeepers, this is an offense that can do some crazy things. I don't know why I'm talking like it's 1950s and I'm fucking Ron Howard from Happy Day. But anyway, there's so much weaponry.
I was gonna say, like, there's a different vibe in here tonight. You can tell. I mean, the comment section is fired up. We've got almost 150 people watching right now, so smash the like too while you're in here.
Yeah.
The vibe is different tonight in here, and you can tell that camp has opened because you're fired up. I'm probably even more fired up than my normal calm self, and the comment section is killing it right now. So hit that like. Football's back, and we haven't even gotten to the defense yet, and we're 45 minutes in.
Namdi says, how many years on the Sanders deal? Unfortunately, only 1, but he's also getting up there.
It's a weird one though. It's like a 1 year, but there's like some like second year team option, I believe, or it's weird. Like,
but it was pretty much in there to bring down his salary for this year. Like, they're spreading a signing bonus out over 2 years to bring his cap number down. But the expectation is that like Sanders won't see the second year of that contract. Kendall came in here with a second year void. So it's dude, it's just so good. Football's back, man. Football is freaking back. If you're excited that football is back and you're one of the 140 people in here right now, do us a favor. Truly appreciate it if you smash that like button for us. Smash that like button. It'll help us with the old YouTube algorithm. Something that I don't understand. A lot of things.
There's one asshole there's one asshole who doesn't like us and gave us a thumbs down. I don't know who it was, but
dude, we got like 7 last show. We got like 7 thumbs down.
Maybe because I didn't shave. I don't know. Maybe I was looking too rough.
I think it's because we brought Kendall on.
No, Kendall gets us more thumbs up probably. Maston Park says with the super chat, thank you, Maston Park. Appreciate that. A new commenter, which I appreciate as well. So coming in right off the bat with the super chat. Just realized that last year we scored on 55% of our possessions and punted only 26% of drives, which was the lowest rate in the league since 1999. And that's why I said on the last show, I really don't give a shit about the punter as long as they can hold, for field goals, and that's fine.
On top of this too, when we talk about I mentioned at the top of the show, the Bills might not have made a ton of changes this offseason, but it's just like they're coming back. And you mentioned last year they thought they were good. This year they know they're good. They're on a mission. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone's familiar with each other. There's not those awkward icebreakers that you have to do. It's just like they're ready to go. Year 2, down for business, all these different things. You mentioned that we scored on 55% of our possessions. What's the first thing that they were doing in training camp practice on day 1? One of the things that they struggled with last year, red zone. They were in the red zone, making sure from day 1, one of their weaknesses last year, which was, finishing at a high percentage in the red zone. They were fixing that. So I don't have their exact red zone numbers in front of me from last year. But that was the commentary, was that one of the things that stood out last year was that they were
maybe I am Tilt Bayless and you're Judge Howard with the I don't think we're that polarizing, but maybe we are. I don't know. I like that Truth to Hearts is putting the positive spin on this, so I appreciate
if you want to hate like us, I'm all for it. As long as you like us. Anyway, but it's like that's a great comment because it goes right back to this team is on a mission. All those things that we did wrong last year, we got all the same people back, and right away, how do we fix them? How do we fix them? And that's what they're doing so while the New York Jets are trying to rip off their 2nd overall pick at quarterback and won't give him the proper like escalators or whatever is in a contract for his bonus, and he misses the first day of practice, and Cam Newton's out there looking like a load of garbage out at the Patriots practice, and all those different things. The Buffalo Bills are keep on going. They just keep on pushing, keep on chugging along. So 42 touchdowns on 68 red zone trips. So that's, I'm really bad at math, 52, 62,
61.8 according to Kendall's next comment.
But that's so that's almost 40% of the time you got in the red zone, you weren't scoring a touchdown. And the Bills were right there. First day of practice, red zone work. So John
DeMarchi can do that calculation in his head, by the way.
Yeah.
The Harvard man.
All right, so let's get to tight end and offensive line before we even switch over to the defense. We might not even make it to the defense here in the first hour. Dawson Knox. So we got Dawson Knox, who first throw to him, he dropped it.
Of course. Why wouldn't he?
So from all the reports, the first pass to Dawson Knox, he, after all offseason saying he worked out with a hand-eye coordination specialist, and all this stuff, drops the first pass. But since then, he has looked good.
That's like piping all your drives on the driving range and then like slicing it OB on the first shot of your round. It's like
and then you got Jacob Hollister, who was injured. So he's going to miss the next couple of practices. And a guy who seems to be taking advantage of that is the forgotten, I should say the not so forgotten man, because no one forgot Tommy Sweeney.
He was on my pre-camp 53. Okay. And yours.
And mine. So, Tommy Sweeney taking advantage. So thoughts on Dawson Knox and thoughts on Tommy Sweeney?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna just try to compartmentalize Knox and be like, look, it's the first day of second day of camp, first ball thrown his way, get that first one out of the way. maybe it's a blessing, right? Maybe it was one of those where it's like, in bowling, you have like 7 strikes in a row and like you're going for the perfect game or something. And then you only get 9. So maybe it's better that he got the 9, like in the first frame. Right. And he just like got it out of the way. And now he can just like, okay, got it out of the way. Now I can get back to business. Sweeney. Wait, did you ask me about Hollister or Sweeney?
I asked you about Sweeney. Hollister,
okay,
it's just like.
Yeah. So Sweeney going to take advantage with Hollister being out, obviously. And I think that, Truth to Hearts had mentioned this a couple shows back. Like, he didn't earn anything. Like, why are we putting him on the team? Well, now look he's got a chance now with Hollister going to be missing time to prove himself. And we already knew that the tight end room, like, you can make the case it's the weakest position group on the team, top to bottom. I mean, even weaker than corner because you have Trey White there. So it's probably the weakest position group on the team. Give Tommy Sweeney a chance. And if he can take advantage of it, we know he's got good hands. We know he can block. And if he's back to full health, good for him, man. Like, really good for him. And I hope he takes advantage of it because, like I said last time, he's the guy that probably has the more complete package between giving you a little bit as a receiver, as a blocker, all that stuff than a guy like a Quentin Morris or even your guy, Nate Becker. But, I'd like to see him take advantage, and it sounds like so far he has.
Yeah, we got Joseph Brennan coming on saying, "First time with you guys. Welcome into the show, Joseph. Hopefully, I haven't scared you away too quickly." He says, "Do you guys think Groove?" And I think he means Groot here is going to start the season. And we're going to transition over to defense in a second. But Carl Hanratty says, "Lots of competition. Sweeney had to fend off Ertz and Duke on top of Hollister and Knox." And so it should be super interesting to see. There was no news on Quentin Morris that I've seen thus far. Like I said, they didn't allow me to put that drone out there in camp. But right before we're going to get to Groot next, I promise. But before we do, Spencer Brown and Bobby Hart were the only 2 names I had listed as offensive linemen I heard mentioned. Obviously, we signed Tyler Gauthier from the University of Miami, former UDFA, who was with the Dolphins and the Patriots last year. And we re-signed Markel Harrell, the offensive guard UDFA from Auburn, who was on the Bills team last year. Really not much talked about there. Just some depth offensive guards. Camp bodies. Even though we were Markel Harrell stands last year.
Casey Reed interviewed him.
Yeah. I mean, we got Spencer Brown, Deion Dawkins out COVID, Spencer Brown taking the reps at left tackle.
Makes total sense.
I think that's really promising because I think that what do you want Spencer Brown to be this year? You want him to be the swing tackle. Yep. And the more reps he gets with the ones, the more reps he gets on the left side, the more comfortable I'm going to feel if, knock on wood, a guy like Deion gets hurt. So it's nice to see Spencer Brown out there on the left side. And also, holy shite, it's not often that someone makes Josh Allen look small.
Yeah, and not to mention what's great about having Spencer Brown too and getting that experience is, being said, we brought him in to be the swing tackle backup this year. So you don't have to reshuffle any of the rest of the offensive line. It's not like you're moving like Darrell Williams now over to left tackle because Deion's hurt. Like, the rest of your line stays intact where they need to be. Obviously we don't know who. We got some glimpses from the pictures, right? But Spencer Brown filling in for Deion. So that's a great opportunity for him early in camp to take advantage of Deion not being there. Obviously, I wish speedy return for Deion, but if you're Spencer Brown, this is a great opportunity for you. So, and John Herring says, I always thought Spencer was going to be the swing offensive tackle and extra blocker. Yeah, I mean, Bean even said as much in the Bills Embedded, right? He said we drafted him to be our backup swing tackle this year, and then beyond this year, we'll see. But that's what he said. All
right, let's get to the big boys. We'll skip Bobby Hart.
Please.
He was mentioned once as a guy who had some good battles with AJ Epinesa. So that's a good transition now to the defensive line. AJ Epinesa was mentioned. He had some good rushes. He had some bad rushes, sort of just blending in at this point. The 2 guys that are standing out for the Buffalo Bills are their first 2 picks of the draft. And Micah Hyde said to Brandon Beane, like, listen, thank you. I should have sent you like a thank you card or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote from Micah Hyde, but he was pumped when the Buffalo Bills went D-line 1st and 2nd overall. He thinks that it's going to make the defense as a whole better. It's going to make the job of the secondary easier. And we've been talking to it, and credit to a ton of the people in the comment section of this show. Chris Janke, Randy Hardman. I had Greg Vorse on. Greg Vorse was talking about this. The old New York Giants NASCAR package, the struggling to see the forest through the trees, making the quarterback, maybe not sacking him, but making it difficult for him. And the quarterback then makes mistakes that the all pros in our secondary, like Jordan Poyer, Mike Hyde, should be all pros, and the all pro Trey White can take advantage of. You're seeing that early. You're seeing Carlos Boogie Basham tip Josh Allen's pass. And to Carl's point earlier, I don't know where he was when he did that. My guess is it was either an inside rush or he was playing the 3 tech. I don't know if an edge is making that type of play. Maybe he is. I think Chris Kelsey made that play against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago, but who knows?
Don't remind me about the outcome of that game.
But Boogie's making plays, and Gregory Rousseau is making plays, and Gregory Rousseau is lining up at a bunch of spots. They mentioned how he's getting in Josh Allen's face, making Josh Allen had an overthrow because he had to throw the ball over Gregory Rousseau. So was it a sack? Was it an interception? No, but it was an incomplete pass on the goal line to an open receiver because Josh Allen couldn't see his receiver or get the ball over that receiver. They mentioned he was lining up. They mentioned he was lining up at defensive tackle. They mentioned on the goal line, he was lining up at left end because they said he was going up against Darrell Williams, getting past the quarterback. So you see Gregory Rousseau using that size to his advantage. You see Boogie Basham making these splash plays. I'll tell you what, if that NASCAR package can come to fruition, if the Buffalo Bills can throw the kitchen sink at some quarterbacks this year, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, Trey White, Teron Johnson, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, like these guys are going to freaking eat, man. They're going to eat. And if the defense and the offense can put it together at the same time for the first time since like 1994 for this football team, watch out.
The Bills were smart with what they did, right? They looked at a guy like Rousseau and they said, we can develop this guy. He's got all the physical traits that we could use to develop him into a really impact player. The thing we can't develop is the fact that he's 6'6", 6'7" with 35-inch, arms.
We're going to, I don't know if he's watching, but if he is watching, this is all in good fun. Somebody asked Joe Miller what Gregory Rousseau said. If you ask Gregory Rousseau, if you ask Joe Miller, he's 7'2". He's 7'2".
Yeah, and Kendall says in the comments, the mental traits, the type of person he is. So Bill said, like, he's got everything we need from a mental standpoint. He's got the size and the length that we cannot, you can't teach it. You have it or you don't, but the rest of it we can develop. He was there in 2019 with the big season, didn't play 2020. The Bills are banking on the fact that they can develop this guy into something special, and the height is going to be something that he's going to be able to use right away during his development, right? It's not something we have to wait around for. Like, the Bills are going to do their best to put him in a position to be able to take advantage of that height right away, right? So that's what we saw today from the reports. He doesn't have to be super polished to start out, right? He's going to be able to make plays on his height and length alone, which is exactly, if you're a Bills fan and you look at a guy like Rousseau and you say, this guy needs development, that's fine, because there's still things in ways he can contribute right away. And this is a case in point example.
John DeMarcy. John, I think you missed the beginning of the show. I dropped one earlier and I'm going to drop one again. Mr. Gregory Rousseau, I got a question for you, Mr. Gregory Rousseau. I think he can. And we got 160 people now in the show. This is crazy. We haven't had this since the draft. I am pumped. You are pumped. The comment section is pumped. Kendall just hit puberty down there in the comment section. He's pumped. We're all ready to go. It's for those of you who have not watched the show before, because a couple of people in the comment section have mentioned that they're first time viewers of the show. I made the mistake last year of introducing a couple of clips, one of those being Creed. And every week I would ask a different player if they could take us higher. And it has become a running joke on this show. So a couple of the old timers are in here. Jeff coming in, Louis Trammer coming in, D Handsome coming in. So get used to hearing a lot of Creed if you're a fan of the show. Speaking of stupid clips I like to show on this show.
We just lost 3 viewers.
There might be someone on this roster that we might want to consider being the a certain adjective of the season.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
And that wild card is Siran Neal.
Oh my goodness.
Siran Neal. So Siran Neal is getting reps with the first team defense. He picked Josh Allen off at practice today. Jordan Poyer post game said, like, listen, Brandon Beane called him an elite gunner. So that also helps his roster chances. The Dean Marlowe role is vacant. Siran Neal had that first team interception off of Josh Allen. And then Jordan Poyer after practice is like, Siran Neal is one of the most physically gifted players I've ever seen, ever worked with, safety wise, defensive back wise. And he was just like if this dude ever puts it all together, he could be the real deal. And you're finally maybe in year 4, because this was a small school guy out of Jacksonville State. Maybe it just took a while, and maybe it's starting to click for a guy like Siran Neal. Like what an addition he could be as a wild card on this defense, because he's, no offense to Dean Marlowe, who was a solid player as that sort of dime defender for the Buffalo Bills, that sixth man, that guy who would always come off the bench when they needed an extra DB. Siran Neal is 10 times the athlete. So he could be a real wild card for this football team. What are your thoughts on Siran Neal's first 2 days?
Yeah, and if I was recalling the reports correctly, most of this was at corner, right? He was playing corner for some of that, or for most of it, and when he made the interception. Look, we know his special teams prowess. We both obviously had him on the final 53. We know Chris Jenke, it's his favorite player. There was no real. We had some very sort of loose discussions about, is there a chance he doesn't make the team before camp started? But we all at the end of the day, when we made our pre-camp predictions, said he's going to be on the team. Bills are likely to keep 9 defensive backs, and he's going to be able to hold off a guy like Wild Goose if this type of play continues, right, for that gunner spot, because one, we already know he's great at that, and then on top of that, if he's going to start adding some contributions on defense, yeah, it's an unexpected bonus, because everyone remembers him from the Sean Watson play in the playoffs. But if he's actually going to contribute some meaningful snaps on defense and be one of your best gunners, if not your best gunner, this guy's a lock to make the team, man. I mean, he's a lock to make the team, and he's maybe a lock to get defensive snaps as well.
Yeah, Carl came in too and said, Marlowe's impact is overrated. They only played 12 plays in the dime last year. Dean Marlowe still played like 200 snaps though. So
he played over 200 snaps defensively.
When I say dime defender, I don't mean that as in like the Buffalo Bills that are, bringing out 4 corners. I mean it more like the basketball term, that sixth man, where it's like, all right, if Teron Johnson's getting really overpowered by a bigger slot receiver, we can turn to Siran Neal. Oh, if, Micah Hyde is coming up limp or something like that, or Jordan Poyer is coming up limp, Siran Neal could be your first guy off the bench. If, Matt Milano, knock on wood, gets injured again, you might consider using a third safety down in the box, as opposed to maybe not so much this year because you got better depth there at linebacker, but he's a player who could fill the void there as well. So when I say dime defender, I don't necessarily mean as like the fifth, sixth defensive back on the field. I mean it just more in a sense that like he's the first guy off the bench for anything outside of boundary, because I don't think you're going to ever see Siran Neal play on the boundary. So whether it's like the safeties or the corners, he's one of those guys who might be one of the first ones off the bench, which would be a nice little added bonus there. Speaking of the secondary, oh wow, Chris S coming in saying for Judge being a freak tonight, he gets $4.99. I don't know what it do. Like I had, I'm not a bum anymore, and I actually have to go to work now again. And I came home today and took a nap and then just woke up. So I'm like flying by the seat of my pants. Everything that I'm talking about tonight, I have the names of the players written down, but have absolutely no notes on what they actually did. I'm doing it all from memory of like what I've been tweeting and reading. So I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants tonight.
And nap did you
so
well,
thank
man.
you. Yeah. So thank you for that. I'm just, I'm refreshed from that nap. Good thing I woke up too, because I forgot to set an alarm. But speaking of that secondary, Dane versus Levi, hotly contested. Sean McDermott even said, listen, I'm looking forward to watching this competition at camp. Levi Wallace, I think, has the edge through 2 days. He's been solid. He does what Levi Wallace does. Dane made some plays on day one, some flashy plays. Matthew Perino likes to call him Action Dane Jackson because he makes those splashy plays. But then Perino came out and said, well, he struggled a little bit today. But then you read reports from Thad Brown, who was like, oh, he had his moments today. So again, it's all based on perspective, who you read. But as long as all things are equal, which is what it appears to be right now, Ty goes to Levi Wallace, correct?
Ty goes to Levi Wallace, and we said this even going into camp, was that going into camp, you would have to give the leg up to Levi Wallace just based on experience, the fact that he started 35 games for this team over the last 3 years. He's fended off competition year after year, albeit it hasn't been great competition, I will admit that. But we still don't know how good a competition Dane Jackson is going to be for him. Obviously, we expect him to be good. We expect him to be right in that mix, given the comments being made in the offseason, given some of the play we saw from him last year and some limited action. Kendall says Jackson may not have the consistency yet, but he looks confident and aggressive. And I agree, which is going to cause him to have his ups and downs during practice. Levi will likely be the steadier player starting out, but as camp progresses, if Dane can increase his consistency while still maintaining that level of aggressiveness, you could see him turn the tide in his favor. But I don't think there's any surprise to me right now that Levi's starting out kind of on top, at least through 2 days.
Yeah, we got Bashar Peterson coming in saying, is there practice tomorrow? Practice tomorrow at 10 a.m. Then they practice at Highmark Stadium in front of the fans on Saturday. And then they have Sunday off. So I have that in my brain. I know the rest of the week's schedule. After that, I'm not 100% sure, but it's posted on their websites. And then we also had Carl coming in saying, any word on the Bam versus Addison battle Rico referenced the other day? Here's the tough thing with all of this, right? Is we're going based off of things we've heard from Matt Perino, Sal Capaccio, Thad Brown, Jenna Cottrell, Matthew Fairburn, Joe Biscaglia. This is the entire premise of our 110 minute so far show has been, what have these guys said, comparing and contrasting what one guy says to another, mixing and matching what one guy talked about compared to another guy to fill in the holes. Because, I have a list of 30 players here. Those guys haven't talked about all 30 players, but the combination of all 8 of those guys have talked about those 30 players. So it's about piecing everything together. And that's, sort of been the purpose of the show, is just piecing together what everyone said so far. They have a muzzle on them. They are not allowed to, by NFL rules, allowed to state who's lining up at the first team, who's lining up at the second team, who's lining up at the third team. So when we say Dane versus Levi, like who's winning, it is, all right, like Levi's made a play, but everyone says, or no, Dane's made a play, also missed a couple, and Levi's just been solid. We're just going based off people's reports, not where they've lined up. Like, we're not saying, oh, Levi's got the leg up because he's lining up at the 1s and Dane Jackson's lining up at the 2s. Or, wow, Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace are splitting things 50-50. That's why we didn't talk about offensive line today, right? Like, we talked about Spencer Brown for like 4 minutes. Why?
Because he was in one picture with the rest of the yeah.
And that's how we know that Spencer Brown is lining. We know that Spencer Brown is lining up at left tackle because he was in a picture next to Josh Allen, which means he's playing with the first team.
And Singletary and Beasley were in the picture.
Yeah. And there was a picture of Gregory. There was a comment that said Gregory Rousseau beat Darrell Williams on the goal line, which means that Darrell Williams is the right tackle, which we already knew. So like, that's how we've pieced together how Spencer Brown is getting left tackle reps. Like, so it's just, it's really, it's just really tough with these rules. I miss the good old days where we'd have our boy Dean up in the bleachers and the astronauts. The astronauts were really second to none, but it's a different, it's different for sure. All right, we got one more thing that we got to talk about, and then we can talk about whatever you guys want. We'll get Kendall in here to get his thoughts. Tyler Bass looking pretty good. I didn't hear anything about him today, but according to various different reports yesterday, he was 5 for 5 kicking field goals with a 49-yarder as his long. So Tyler Bass looking good as well. Haven't gotten any updates on the kick and the punt returners yet. So all in all, just some super interesting different things. And it's time to bring on producer Kendall. So Kendall, welcome to the show. Let me get this background out of your way here. so we can give you the visual the people deserve. Comment section, it's now open to you. It's Q&A with Kendall. We're going to ask Kendall his thoughts real quick here on we're going to ask him his thoughts on just what he's seen so far. So like what is sticking out to him and things like that. While Kendall has given us his commentary, any topics you want to talk about, any questions you have, any takes you want to throw out there, throw them in the comment section and we'll start hitting those up over the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But Kendall, before we get to the comment section, what are some of the things that you've noticed over the past 2 days? What's got your attention here?
I think the main takeaway so far, especially today, is really how much Boogie and Groot are impacting the defense and how well the defense is playing. Obviously, we all knew we needed an influx of talent and specifically some youth on that defensive line. Getting a little lazy.
He's been growing it for 5 years. Truth to hearts,
I know, right? Thank you. Yeah, Judge, you've been really coming at me while I'm just behind the curtains tonight.
Taking the beating.
I know.
I'm so sober that I think I'm drunk right now.
No, but back to the point. No, it's just nice to hear that these young defensive ends are actually doing well. Like we all knew that we needed some talent at the edge rusher position, and we needed that to make our defense better, get some more pressure on the quarterback. But to see it have an effect on Josh Allen, the way that it has, and to hear things like Boogie's literally making plays that, the interception itself, like people are saying it's less of a Josh Allen thing and it's more of a Boogie Basham thing. Like that's what you want to hear. It's literally the perfect relationship where it's like, okay, so it's not Josh Allen's fault. It's just Boogie's really good. So it's just all the things we're hearing, like Groot being a fast learner and like literally learning things one rep at a time. Like someone tells him what to do and he just fixes it the next rep. All of these things, it's really inspiring to hear that this defense could get back to 2019 form. Hell, maybe even back to like Jim Schwartz defense kind of form. And, if we pair that with this offense, with the 2020 offense, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Like it's going to happen. So obviously there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in between. But if those two things come together in a perfect relationship, sky's the limit for this team, man.
James FX90 comes in and says he wants a prediction request from you. Combined, how many sacks do you expect from Boogie and Rousseau in their rookie seasons?
I think I put it on Twitter before, so you could probably fact check me what I said, like gut reaction. I think I have Boogie at like anywhere between like 5.5 and 6.5, and I think Groot's going to be somewhere between like 4.5 and 5.5. I think they're going to be on the
game either. Yeah.
I think they're going to be on the field more for rundowns anyways. Like you've said a lot, Judge, I've definitely aligned with that take that you've had, that Addison and Hughes will be the primary pass rushers for those situations. So I just think the numbers from Groot and Boogie will be dampened a little by that, just how they're used.
But how many knockdowns are they going to have?
Right. There's so much pressure rate, like all of those things. Yeah, that all gets thrown into the mix for sure. But so combined, I'll just say probably 11. I would say somewhere in the ballpark, like give or take 1 to 2 sacks, 11.
I think if they can combine for double digits, hit that 10 mark, I'd be happy with it. Like if Boogie Basham gets 6, all of a sudden he's creating what Shaq Lawson did.
Right.
For this offense, or for this defense. And the defense was good when Shaq Lawson was, at his best at left end. The thing that's got me most excited is just the fact that, like, first day we're hearing Boogie, we're hearing Groot, like, the defensive line is loaded with players. And Gregory Rousseau was very raw. So it's nice to know early and sort of get that pressure off early, at least as a fan, knowing that those two guys are going to contribute right away. Because even though being said, Gregory Rousseau will have a role early, I think some people were still pretty cautious about that just because of how raw he is, having not played last year at Miami, all those different things. But I think that's calming the nerves of Bills Mafia a little bit.
Yes.
AK Cash comes in and says, so if fans spill some info on Saturday, can you comment on it? Hell yes. And I think D. Hanson said he's going to be there on Saturday. Let us know, man. Like, be a resource for us. Tweet it. Send us a DM, whatever. Let us know what's going on Saturday in terms of where guys are lining up. Who knows? The Buffalo Bills might have a little bit of gamesmanship and be lining guys up
Hmm.
where they haven't been. So it'll be really interesting. But yeah, be our eyes and ears by all means.
Yeah.
We would really appreciate that. Nandi comes in and says, "Don't you think Addison plays the run better than a rookie defensive end like Boogie?" He might be better in terms of like situational awareness, but I think a guy like Boogie brings more size to the equation, right, Kendall?
I mean, everything I did, you could go back and watch my film session on Boogie. And really, as much as I like him as a pass rusher, I think I like him more as a run stuffer or just someone that can even set the edge. I just think they have more room to go, they being Groot and Boogie. They have more room to grow as pass rushers. I think they're, I don't want to say near their ceiling, but they're closer to their ceiling as run defenders than they are as pass rushers. There's a lot more nuance that goes into pass rushing. And I think they're just both physical freaks to the point where it's easier to be where you're expected to be as a run stopper when you have that kind of physical presence. So, yeah, I'd say you were right to say that Addison is probably further along as a run defender. But I don't think either Basham or Rousseau are too far behind.
Yeah.
Can we put some respect on Addison's name? Like I feel like I'm the only one defending Mario Addison on this show. Besides Truth to Hearts, like he's gonna make the team. Like he's gonna make the team.
I defended him in a tweet this week.
Okay, fair enough.
I wanted to do a film session on him.
I won't say it with my words, but I'll say it.
Are we underrating him potentially this year because of how maybe disappointing he was last year? Like,
it's just tough when you have that cap figure next to your name and then you like lead the team with 5.5 sacks. It's just very underwhelming and depressing.
Fair enough. Plus, we're going to have a ton of rotation anyway, probably.
Yeah.
So, I think he's going to be better this year, though, than he was last year. I do.
It's a low bar to clear, but I do think he'll be better.
Scott Blakely says, "How is Epinesa doing?" So I sort of mentioned him a little bit quickly when I mentioned Bobby Hart. That's the only report I've read thus far. Is Matt Perino commented that Bobby Hart and AJ Epinesa had some pretty nice one-on-ones and things of that nature. Some plays Bobby Hart was getting the best of Epinesa. Some plays Epinesa was getting the best of Bobby Hart. If I was making a guesstimation, and again, this is a guesstimation, my guess is Bobby Hart is probably the second team left tackle, and they probably got Tommy Doyle taking right tackle reps. Again, this is a guesstimation on my part. So that would give you an idea that AJ Epinesa was taking second team right end reps. My guess is right now Mario Addison is probably taking the first team reps at right end, which is also good to have a crafty veteran going up against a guy like Spencer Brown too early in camp. So a whole bunch of positives there. Was it Changali said? Someone already mentioned in the comment section. I think 3 people have mentioned in the comment section. Iron sharpens iron. So
it's true.
Yeah, it'll be super interesting. Yeah. All right. So anyone in the comment section, anything that you guys want to talk about, anything that stands out? Namdi comes in and says, obviously still mad at Addison for the Cardinals game. Way to bring it up, man. Jay Snake came in and said, when will we get the film breakdown on Tyler Bass? He's joking, but I think he's serious. When are you going to break down the film on Tyler
Dude,
Bass?
I don't even know what to do. Game Pass. I don't know if you saw my tweet today. I had to like correct myself for it because I was getting frustrated. Game Pass.
You were the only one mad. You were not the only one mad.
They've totally changed their user interface. Coach's film is down. I tried to like pull up some stuff on Dawson Knox this week for our film session, and I just don't have anything to go off of right now. So hopefully Coach's film comes back soon. I guess I could give you guys some broadcast camera stuff for Tyler Bass. I don't know how helpful that's going to be.
Just do his Instagram videos. Just break down his Instagram.
I know,
videos.
right? Those are probably way more valuable than anything I would get from broadcast film. Yeah, I'm just upset with NFL Game Pass right now, man. I just want to get my Coach's film back.
We got Brett Holmes coming in saying, does anyone think that McDermott's trying to use AJ like a Lorenzo, and that's why he had him cut so much weight? Brett, I would say that if you don't have a subscription to The Athletic, go get a subscription to The Athletic. Go back in the archives to a couple of months ago. Matthew Fairburn did a great piece on AJ Epinesa. So the situation was they thought at 280 he was too big. He was too stiff. And they wanted him to shed weight. The Buffalo Bills ideally want him in the 260 to 265 range. However, and I'm honestly still baffled by this. I don't understand. But because of COVID and because he didn't have like the Buffalo Bills trainers there and he was kind of on his own, he cut too much weight and he ended up in like the 240s. I don't know how that happened.
It sounds like
but,
excuses
like,
to me, man, honestly.
I think
Or
he just
it's like
it seems to me like AJ like just maybe found a chick he thought was hot, wanted to slim down, look like Aquaman. I don't know.
That wrestling background.
He got down into the 240s, they were saying, which that's like who was that guy who played forever for the Eagles and the Texans? Oh gosh, that
Trent Cole?
No, white guy.
Barwin, Connor Barwin.
Yeah, got into some Connor Barwin territory. AJ Epinesa did. And
that was a pull out of my ass.
That was a pull.
Right? No, nice.
Apparently, according to Fairburn's article, as of like a month or two ago, he was back up into the 250s, and the Buffalo Bills want him between 260 and 265. A couple of people this offseason have done deep dives into what the Buffalo Bills are looking for in defensive ends, as some of these guys, like Jerry Hughes, is not a prototypical Sean McDermott defensive end. He inherited Jerry Hughes, that bendy type of edge. So it seems like the Bills' prototype defensive end, longer arms, between like 6'3", 6'6", and somewhere in the 260 to 275 range in terms of weight. That's essentially what the Buffalo Bills are looking for from their edge rushers, based on a couple of deep dives I've seen someone do. And then Alex Lucci, the thigh doctor himself, says, "Slimming down ain't easy. Trust me, brother. I know. I wish I knew the secret to AJ Epinesa's success. I could fit into all my old work shirts." But it'll be super interesting to see. Well, Game Pass is $100 now too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what
they're adding a ton of content though, like a ton of extra. I don't want it either. I just want my coach's film back.
I'm not here's the thing for me. I'm not a coach's film guy. I like rewatching condensed games when I'm bored, and I like watching preseason games live. That's all I need it for.
Right.
I'm going to pay $100 for it.
I'm going to do it.
You paid 60 for Madden, so you might as well pay 100 for that.
I'm not a smart consumer. Lone Wolf comes in, and Chris S., we're going to get to your comment in a second as well about tight ends, but Lone Wolf comes in and says, Mac Jones looking better than Cam. Surprised? It's early. Yeah, apparently Cam was woof in practice the other day, missing guys left and right. Could it now be Mac Jones starting week 1 for the New England Patriots? Would that surprise you guys?
Yeah.
When's he losing the number 50, by the way? I think that's so stupid.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
So stupid.
I would be surprised, just because I think they're going to try to still squeeze whatever they can out of Cam this year. I think their plan probably was like Mac Jones wouldn't start until like the end of the season if the Pats were out of the playoff mix, or until next year. But I think if the Pats are in the playoff mix, even if Cam's like playing okay, that he'll still be the guy until they're out of it, until they're out of the playoff mix. If they're in the hunt all year, I think Cam's the guy all year.
Should be interesting. Chris S comes in and says tight end depth is weak, but linebacker depth a concern too? I think I speak for all of us when I say no. So you have Tremaine. So let's get into a situation. Let's knock on wood. I'm going to have a million people in the comment sections again.
You've injured like the whole team at this point.
You got to run through these scenarios, and I'm knocking on wood. So don't worry.
It's true. We're talking about depth.
Say Tremaine Edmonds goes down. You have a possibility in AJ Klein who could fill that role. Did so last year. Sometimes hot, sometimes not so hot. You have Tyrell Dotson who can fill that role, a young prospect who has flashed. And you also have Tyrell Adams. You could even throw guys like Joe Giles, Harris, and Mark Lee into the mix as players who have shown glimpses throughout their career here and there. So a lot more depth. Same with Matt Milano. If Matt Milano goes down, it wouldn't surprise me if, a guy like Dodson or Adams even jumped a guy like AJ Klein. Like middle of the game, Matt Milano goes down, AJ Klein probably goes in. Long term, 4 to 6 weeks, the Buffalo Bills might go for the more athletic player and an Adams or a Dodson. So just more names, players to throw against the wall, players to come in and compete that aren't like Chris Thompson, like UDFA's out of
Julian Stanford. Remember him?
Yeah, Julian.
Remember how many times we talked about? You know who I kind of miss though?
Ramon Humber.
I kind of miss we always kind of thought Corey Thompson could be something, and he just never was.
I did too for a little bit.
Alex Lucci coming in saying herniated disc for Hollister. They said day to day. That doesn't seem like a herniated disc to me. So unless this is new news that's coming out, I have no idea. They said
Truth
day
of
to
Hearts
day for
comments.
Jacob Hollister. So.
I knew
They did.
you were laughing at this till put it up.
Yeah, I mean, if Cam's started week 1, they're out of the playoff hunt. Yeah,
My question is, are they in the playoff hunt if Mac
yes.
Jones is the starter?
Oh,
Listen,
their defense is going to keep them in games. I don't know if it's going to keep them in enough games to win and be in the playoff hunt, but I do think that they have the potential with the personnel they brought in. We talked about this when we did the AFC's preview.
Yeah.
If they run the offense to the personnel that they have, and McDaniels kind of runs that run first, uses the tight ends in the passing game. The receivers aren't alpha type guys, so they're not likely to be like, divas, if you will, if they're not getting a ton of targets. That was the theory I had anyway. And you've got arguably the best running back in the AFC East. Not saying he's awesome, but Damian Harris, and then you added Ramondre Stevenson, and you still have James White. I think the Patriots could be somewhat competent on offense, at least better than they were last year, which is, again, like you said, Kendall, it's a low bar to clear. But
Mac Jones is also on the roster as number 50 on the depth chart.
Yeah, no, like it's a thing, but I don't think I think it's a thing that they do with their first round draft picks. They make them earn the number that they want to wear. I think it's a Belichick thing. I don't know.
No one number 10 on the roster, by the way. Matthew Judon's wearing number 9. That's gonna be scary.
Hey, that was Mario Williams' old number in college when he was on the Wolfpack. He was number 9.
Single digit coming around the edge. That is scary. I don't know why.
Brett Bauer comes in and says, what's the deal with the defensive tackle position? Sort of what we referenced earlier here, Brett. Like, the reporters are not allowed to talk about the rotations. Like Matt Perino even mentioned Star Lodalele a little bit yesterday on the Shout podcast. And he was saying like, oh yeah, he looked good on some reps. I can't tell you what team the rep was on and what offensive lineman he was going up against, but I can tell you like he looked good on his few reps. So that's a situation where like preseason, the open practices where the fans are at, that's when we can maybe give you a better idea, paint a better picture of what's going on with the depth of the defensive tackle position. But at least for now, the only mention I've heard was Star Lodalele. I've not heard anything about Ed Oliver. I've not heard anything about Harrison Phillips, about Vernon Butler, about Justin Zimmer. So unfortunately, Brett, that's all we really have for you right now, unless anyone saw something that I did not.
The Bills are gonna like mind fuck us for the open practice, and they're gonna
sure.
It's gonna be Eli Anku and
like Trayvon Hester is gonna get like first team reps or like something.
Yeah.
For sure.
John coming in with the super chat. John coming to the super chat. Again, I always appreciate super chats. If you want to jump the line or you 100% want to guarantee that your voice is heard, all you got to do is be just like John here and throw us a nice little super chat. He says, always appreciate it, John. He says, people go with what they know. Allen equals MVP Cam. JA17 is better. Big dominant QB. He could run the red zone, etc. 6'7" Groot equals Julius Peppers. 160 career sacks. I rounded up there. 4th all time behind Bruce and Reggie and Kevin Green. So yeah, what he's saying there is, Buffalo has that Carolina connection, whether it's Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane. Buffalo went with that uber athletic quarterback who can dominate in the red zone. And, Josh Allen is sort of overcome the stereotype, but he was never much of a yards guy his first 2 years. No. But he sure as heck was scoring touchdowns, which was a positive. So much like Cam there, he's just such a dominant threat in the red zone. And then, obviously Groot. I don't know if he's ever going to have the bend to be a Julius Peppers, but he's definitely going to have that length to be an impact player.
I mean, he just doesn't have a patented move. Like Julius Peppers had that patented spin move. Like Groot just kind of goes. He just kind of has this relentless motor, and he just kind of goes and wins with athleticism. Once he develops moves, like he could be scary.
And this is a name we didn't really hear anything about either in any of the reporting. Did Singletary look faster, like at all? I mean, trust me, if we had heard anything about Singletary, Steve would have been the first to mention it because we would have seen a picture of him of his pecs. But no, like you said, other than like the little report on Breida, a little bit on Breida, there wasn't a ton of talk about running backs.
I heard Zach Moss had a couple touchdowns, but like they're not wearing pads. No one's really tackling a running back anyways. So it's like, really, what is it worth other than Breida looks fast?
Yeah. So it's It should be interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have hit the hour and a half mark for this evening. So that will just about do it for us. If anyone wants to get any last second thoughts or comments out in the comment section, we can hit them up. But Dave, any last thoughts this evening?
Last thoughts. I said it earlier. The vibe's different tonight. Football's back. We're feeling good. We're feeling good because we're rooting for a good team. Like I said, they know they're good. They're on a mission this year. I don't think it's going to get to their head what they did last year because there's tons of unfinished business. We'll always remember that Stephon Diggs picture at the end of the AFC Championship game. And that's what's fueling this team now at the start of training camp is not just that picture, but the whole culmination of how that went down. And like I said, difference between thinking you're good and knowing you're good and now going out and still playing. Think about this. You know you're good, but you still have something you have to prove. That is a dangerous combination for opposing teams if you're facing the Bills. So I'll leave it at that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 100%. Kendall, any last thoughts from you?
No, nothing really other than just excited to actually be here, finally get to training camp and get to talk about the new things that are happening versus just speculating on them. But I got to toss some comedy in here because Carl comes in with a good one. Open practice will feature Duke Williams playing all 11 spots
on offense and defense.
They're going to do everything they can to get this man on the final roster and get other teams to fear him. So I don't know. Open practice is going to be a doozy. I feel like they're definitely going to try to throw us for one.
And D Hanson coming in saying, boys, I love you. I'll definitely keep you updated. Check Twitter without a doubt. Tag the Bills guys in as many of those things as you can, if possible. Don coming in with a little bit of a national media update. I'll tell you what, I stopped watching TV, and it's a wonderful thing, but
I honestly don't watch any programming on TV.
I usually end up seeing the clips on Twitter because someone will
the clips, yes.
I've just avoided it. Like I have avoided it.
Better for it.
And I'm better for it. But some nice things from Dawn here because Dawn decides that she's still going to dip her toes in that national media water. She says Chris Canty and Rob Ninkovich on Get Up say Josh is their preseason pick for MVP. Dominique Foxworth, of course, went with someone other than Josh Allen, but did have Josh Allen as a second choice. So that's a good one.
And didn't he play for the Ravens for a little bit, Foxworth?
Probably.
So that kind of makes sense, I think.
Never been a big
I'm gonna have to fact check. I'm gonna have to fact check myself on that. I know he played for the Broncos, but I thought he also played for the Ravens.
Chris coming in says, "Thanks, guys. Great show. Go Bills." Louis Trammer. All the Go Bills rolling in.
So many show. Go Bills tonight.
Great comment.
Love it.
And D Handsome says, "Smash them MF and like." So again, we still got 140 of you in here on the way out the door. If you could please smash that like, it would be greatly appreciated. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.